Yesterday, April 13th, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on the Environment and Sustainable Development issued a report on policy recommendations for zero-emission vehicles. And one of those recommendations was a ZEV mandate, basically, that manufacturers would have to sell a certain percentage of electric vehicles every year, and that the percentage would go up and up over time. So we're going to talk to Joanna Kyriazis of Clean Energy Canada about that. Welcome to the interview, Joanna.
Thanks, Markham. Great to speak today.
Well, what do you think of this ZEV mandate? I know California's got one, a few other states have got one. I think even BC and Quebec have them. What do you think about a national one?
Yeah, so Clean Energy Canada has been advocating for a zero emission vehicle mandate, or we call it a standard, for a while. It's a transformative policy that not only reduces greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector, but it really drives uptake of zero emission vehicles by making sure there's sufficient supply. And so, we need Canadians to have access to a broad range of makes and models at various price points in order to make it easier for them to choose to go electric.
Right. And so have mandates worked in other jurisdictions where they've been tried?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Quebec, BC, and California all have zero emission vehicle mandates in place. Actually, 12 US states do as well. If we take a look, though, at Quebec, California, and BC, those provinces and states have a much higher zero emission vehicle market share and account for a pretty large percentage of ZEV sales in those countries. So, California accounts for almost 50% of all EVs sold in the US, and BC and Quebec together account for 80% of EVs sold in Canada. So there's a real difference in those places that have a ZEV standard in place.
Well, the report actually had other recommendations besides the ZEV mandate. Joanna, can you give us an idea of what those were?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the report, I'll split some of these up by kind of looking at the demand side policy recommendations, the supply side policy recommendations, and then the economic development the policy recommendations. So, some of the demand side policy recommendations that would help make zero emission vehicles more affordable, more accessible for Canadians were to continue providing rebates that make EVs more affordable. And in particular, the committee asked for some changes to the federal rebate program that would ensure lower and middle income Canadians are using those rebates more. So incentives for used EVs, or an income test that gives more money to lower income Canadians. Another example was to get more charging infrastructure out there by making the rollout of those federal investments in charging infrastructure faster, and then also changing building codes like the National Building Code to require new buildings to have EV charging installed. The supply side policy recommendations we talked about, the main one there was to put in place a ZEV mandate or standard that requires automakers to sell more EVs into the Canadian market, and make sure that those EVs are available not just in provinces like BC and Quebec that have a ZEV mandate in place. And then finally, there were a few recommendations that looked at, building the future auto sector in Canada. So retraining auto workers to make sure they're well prepared to build EVs and their batteries, investing in the entire battery supply chain to link Canada's metals and minerals with battery production and zero emission vehicle assembly. So I think those are all important pieces here to reduce emissions and grow the clean economy.
Well, Joanna, last question, or actually point of discussion, because I think important context for viewers is where we're at cost-wise with zero emission vehicles. Now, I've interviewed, Bloomberg NEF EV analysts and their battery folks, and really about 2024, 2025, they think that EVs are going to be the same sticker price as an internal combustion engine car, and that's when they expect sales to really take off. So the kind of policy changes, recommendations that came out of this committee report would be coming into effect right around that time. And you can really see where that we might have rapid adoption of electric vehicles, say mid-decade.
I agree. I think both that reason, the price parity, where EVs are going to become competitively priced with similar gas models, that's going to be a huge tipping point. And also just seeing some of the new zero emission vehicle technologies coming out onto market. So we're seeing more electric SUVs and pickup trucks that are starting to be announced, and we'll be seeing more of those for sale in the next couple of years. And then another piece that's really important to Canadians is longer range batteries. And so a recent KPMG survey showed that Canadians really want EVs that have a range of 400 kilometers or more on a single charge. And, again, I think with these policies that are really pushing automakers to bring more EVs into the market, we're going to be seeing better battery ranges and more of the types of vehicles that Canadians want to drive.
Joanna, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me, Markham.